Yo, what's going on, guys? Bill here, Classic Rock and Metal Review. Thought I would go over 14 recent listens, and actually 5 of these are recent pickups from this year. They're not new releases, but new to me sort of things. Spanning 1974 to 1986 here. I got 12 vinyl albums and 2 CDs to talk about. I've been showing you what I've been getting a lot this year, but how about some feedback? Maybe not instant feedback, because some of these go back a little bit, but a great guitarist once said, what would rock and roll be without feedback? There, Google it, check it out. All right, so 5 pickups, like I said, fairly recently. 2 more that I've owned for quite a long time, but I'm just hearing them for the first time. I have stuff laying around from years ago. I'll give you my thoughts on my first SHM CD. You're seeing these things pop up. A lot of out-of-print titles or hard-to-find titles getting put back out on CD. They're from Japan. They're re-releases. They're imports. You see them on Amazon, but they say import right on them. Obi strips, etc. Take a look at the first one I got of one of those. Lots of classic hard rock, little metal, few new wave things in there, and try to run by us all this stuff. Let's do it. An album pretty much every year from 74 to 83, and one from 86. Today's beverage of choice, guys, gotta wimp out and just go with some water. There's a few too many beverages of choice last night. I love water, by the way. I'm not a big iced tea or soda person. Fun fact. All right, guys, some of these titles I've owned for years, like I said, just laying around. Others completely new to me. Either way, it's a great batch of stuff. It really is. A lot of, I think I give some ratings on here, and they're really pretty high, generally speaking. All right, so maybe you guys need some new listening. Always wondered what some of this stuff was like. I'll try to run it all by you. All right. First of all, just got this one a few months ago. We got Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes. The last album Ted with that band. It's 1974. It is called Tooth, Fang, and Claw. Picked it up on this used vinyl in pretty good shape. All right, I think I paid $14 for it, so that's about what it goes for. No big screaming deal there. Final album, like I said, it's rocking and lots of guitar in there. It's supposed to be, from what I read about it before I listened to it, people not too happy with the fact that it's basically Ted's first solo album listed as an Amboy Dukes. I personally hear Amboy Dukes in here, all right? And I'm not a big fan of theirs. I've only heard a couple of songs. It sounds a little bluesy and a little trippy to me, all right? It might be kind of rocking. Maybe it's more so than the Amboy Dukes' other albums. I'm only going by the few songs that I know, all right? But I kind of hear Amboy Dukes in here, surprisingly. Pretty impressed. There's a few instrumentals on here. Great White Buffalo one that Ted carried over into his solo career, live at least anyway. My opinion, really good Amboy Dukes-like album, all right? More Psyche vibes than I expected. I've only heard it once, so I'll hold off on a rating and probably give it at least an 8, though, based off the one listen. I do want to get back to it. Really good stuff there. All right, on to 1975, the very next year. Pulled out my ZZ Top Fandango. Got in a little ZZ Top mood a few weeks ago. One side studio, really strong stuff. I mean, like fantastic. And some classics, in fact, on side 2. 6 of them. 6 songs, and they're all really good. Side 1 is live. I have to admit, I've never been as into the live side, only because I prefer ZZ Top to do originals rather than cover songs. Just my personal taste. The studio side is so damn good, though. Man, if they had just done three or four more originals and made this just an original studio album, it would be in my top 3. It's on pace to be that way. What you get with the live stuff, Thunderbird, Jailhouse Rock, Backdoor Medley, so all these like sort of standards, you know. I'm way more into the studio stuff. Nasty Dogs and Funky Kings, great one. Blue Jean Blues is cool. Heard It on the X. Tush is on there. Mexican Blackbird's a really cool little ditty. And I'm forgetting how Balinese goes, but I think that's pretty awesome too. It's been a few weeks now, forgetting it by the title. But Fandango, a great album. I'll give it a solid 8. It's just drops at least a star for me because I have a side of cover songs. All right, so on to the very next year, and again, it's some more ZZ Top, Tahas from '76. What a great one through and through on this one. Maybe where Fandango was headed had they made it just a complete album. So what a hot streak they're on as far as the writing goes, because this album, this one in Diguello. But Texas, I think Tahas is breathing down Diguello's neck is my favorite album. It really is. Texas blues on here, some rock, some trippy, peyote-fueled stuff, you know. It's funky in places. It's really heavy in places. Typical ZZ Top, but man, they're just hitting all the right bells, I guess you'd say. Utterly cool, fantastic album. An easy 9 and probably a 10, honestly. It's Only Love's cool. Arrested for Driving While Blind. El Diablo is my favorite on here. Just talking about that trippy, bluesy stuff. There you go. What else is good? Sleep in the Desert's a cool little instrumental to end things. But I just love this record. Beware, guys, if you're looking for a standalone CD. And also that 6-pack collection. 6 CDs they put out a while back. They have an updated production. They kind of made everything sound like the way that remix of Legs that became the single of Legs. Synth-driven sort of sound. The drums sound like shit. All right, so there are standalones out there with that bullshit remix from the 80s, I guess, and also in that 6-pack collection. Beware of that. One way to avoid any mistakes as far as that goes, and several other albums too, were redone after Legs hit it. They wanted to make their old shit sound modern. Whose bright idea was that? I don't know. You can avoid all the nonsense by just getting this ZZ Top album collection. Complete studio albums, 1970 to 1990. All right? And what do you get? The first 10 studio records, but Fandango's in there even though it's half live. All right? Not that they had any live albums anyway. First 10 albums. All regular original mixes. All right? No worries with that nonsense there. All right, on to 1977. After I had Chicago Transit Authority, Chicago 2, and Chicago 3, I wanted some more Chicago, and the only other thing they had at the store that day was Chicago 11. So I really know this album well because I go back to the 80s with this one. There's one song on here I don't like, and I guess I'll never like it at this point. Vote for Me. Stupid song. It almost sounds like a politician jingle from a commercial. I don't know. It's just, I hate it. But otherwise, this album, strong album, very diverse mix of tunes on here. Everything from some real rock and stuff to, I think you do got, is Baby What a Big Surprise on here, I believe. There's one soft rock single on here. Otherwise, it's just a real diverse album. It's the last one with Terry Kath from 1977. Some of his best songs he ever did are on here. Taking It On Uptown's on here, great rocker featuring Terry. And also a Little One, there's I think a prelude, and then a Little One, the main song is a orchestration on the intro, and then, it's a ballad, but it's a really well done one, and it ends the album, and it's a strong one. Mississippi Delta City Blues on here, awesome one. Solid, overlooked album, I believe. It's not going to convert anyone that's not a fan, but if you're a Chicago fan who hasn't got up to 11, you do need to check it out. Really good. All right, the very next year, 1978, here's an album that I've had since the 80s, and this is the actual album. So it's just such a shame I got rid of so many things, because I've managed to keep these things in awesome shape, as you can see. Man, this thing's like mint condition. But anyway, it's Stone Blue from Foghat. And I think this might be my favorite album from these guys. I know Fool for the City gets a lot of attention with those two biggest hits, but this thing might just be more solid all the way through, or as good at least. Just kicks so much ass. Side 1 just kills. It's a 10, all 4 songs on there. All right, side 2 lets up a little bit, but it's still some really tasty stuff. You got some, what's the first side? Let's talk about that first. Stone Blue, Sweet Home Chicago, awesome. Easy Money's great. Talk about a heavy rocker, almost metal. And Midnight Madness is a really cool song. I think you get some acoustics in there on the intro, but it's a great one. Turns out to be a rocker in the end. Some good slide work on It Hurts Me Too on side 2. The solo on High on Love is worth the price of admission. All right, we're on side 2 now. A smoking version of Chevrolet, and respectable hard rock ballad to end the thing with Stay With Me. So it's just a great record. This album is a 9 in my eyes, and maybe their best. I've only heard Fool for the City a couple times, actually. This one I played a bunch of times, just so good. Another one from 1978. I've owned the CD for 5 or 10 years or so. The album I just found recently, came across it, and it was like $4, so why the hell not? And it's probably my favorite album from these guys, UFO's Obsession. Whenever I listen to it, I think, man, front to back, I think this is their best. And I actually think it's, objectively, I think it's their best album they've ever done too. So it's my personal favorite. I think it's their best, critically looking at it. So it just makes me wonder, is it the rare trifecta where it's also the most popular album? I don't know, it might be Lights Out or Strangers, right? So anyway, I don't think any other album front to back is as solid as this one. It's almost like a greatest hits album, really, because even the non-popular ones that weren't concert staples are still awesome. Only You Can Rock Me, of course. Pack It Up and Go's great. Ain't No Baby, that's awesome. What else is killer on here? One for the Rodeo is great. Of course, Cherry and Hot and Ready, and I'm not naming everything, but that's most of it there. UFO Obsession, 1978. I would say as good a place as any to start with UFO if you're not yet a fan. Grab that one first. I'll probably go, it's at least a 9.5, maybe a 10, that record. All right, on to a CD. My first SHM CD. Have the album, and it's an elusive CD. It's going to run you $20 to $30 minimum. I think Wounded Bird put out a version. Maybe there was a Warner version before that, Japan. But now what I got is one of these newer SHM CDs. It's off of Amazon and ran, I think, $22, something like that. So I'll tell you what, first of all, as far as the sound goes, sounds great. It's called Everything You Heard Is True. It's Tom Johnson's first solo album of Doobie Brothers, famous as 1979. I really like this album a lot. I already reviewed it a year or two ago when I first picked it up on vinyl. A solid 8, I'll probably go even 9, all right, in my opinion. Now, I'm a big fan of the Doobies. I'm also a fan of a variety of music, so there's a couple of sort of danceable rockers, if you want to call them that, on here that didn't work for a lot of Doobies fans, but work for me, you know. There's also some songs on here that sound like they would have been right in place with what Michael McDonald was doing with the Doobies in '79, honestly. 2 or 3 of those. Another reason why a lot of people don't really like this album. They were hoping for a Doobies from '75 style album, and that's not what this is. So, like I said, I got the vinyl, so being able to pick up the CD for about $22 is as good as it's going to get as far as the CD. And you're looking at Wounded Bird 2003 or so. That's going to run you probably $30. So I figured, let me go check out one of these SHMs, see what's up. So it is Warner Records. Very plain CD as far as the CD disc itself, as you can see. But overall, otherwise, this production value here for what you're getting in the booklet and everything. Get this little Obi. All right, you see these with these things. All right, I'm not a big Obi fan or whatever. Just something else to lose, you know, keep track of. But there you go. You do get that if you're a fan of those. Back cover essentially looks just like the back of the regular album, which is cool. But what I really wanted to show you here is the booklet. It's super fat. You know, I haven't read it yet, but just the front cover, like usual, on the front of it. Japanese and English titles on the first page. And what do we got? So it's all Japanese at first. Let me see. I actually listened to this while I was driving, so I couldn't. All right, then you get the lyrics in English also, which is kind of cool. All right. We're on like page 5, 6, 7. More Japanese, other lyrics in Japanese in the back, but really thick book. And that's all the credits that were on the back of the vinyl album. Okay. And I think they're also on the back cover here. No, it's in a more extensive version of that. But man, the sound quality, that's what matters here the most. It sounds excellent. Punchy and sort of maybe just modern techniques, all right? But it does sound really good. Does it sound better than the vinyl? Probably not. I think I like the vinyl better. But as CDs go, I can't see like a Wounded Bird CD from 22 years ago sounding as good as this. So I'm really happy with my first SHM disc. Tom Johnson from 1979. All right, on to some 1980 material. Self-titled album from The Pretenders. And this is one that I've had in my collection for, I don't know, 5 or 10 years. What a really great album. I never realized that about half of the content on this first record came out as singles and EPs the year prior. So this album was released in 80, a couple of EPs and a couple singles in 79, early to mid and even late 79 end up on this record. So if you own only one Pretenders album, I would say this is the one you should get. It's a solid 9, all right? It's punky, it rocks. There's some pop songs in there, and man, just the attitude Chrissie Hynde is able to deliver in studio. It's like a live, badass attitude. Comes across great on a studio album. And so good, in fact, that I wanted more Pretenders, all right? Right after listening to that, and this was a recent pickup from earlier this year, Pretenders 2, 1981, and again, sort of the same deal. Some singles that had been released in between the first album and this end up on this album. There was this dude I used to work with back in the day who taped me both of these albums, talking like 1989, all right? Had the CDs, whatever, and he liked both equally. I've always preferred the first album, and I still kind of do, but this one is also very, very good. I would say 8.5 on this album. More of the same, rock, punk attitude on some of these songs, some total pop numbers, pop rock if you want to call it. And like I said, there were 2 singles that were released after the first album. They're both ended up on here. I think a B-side. Now, unfortunately for the band, after this tour, the bassist was dismissed. Is that Pete Farndon, I think his name was? And the guitarist died. I'm forgetting that dude's name. But man, what a rough week. In the same week that happened. And they had to recruit 2 new players to do Learning to Crawl, the next album. But Pretenders 1 and Pretenders 2, 2 excellent albums. And I think you'll be surprised. I mean, it's a little nutty in a way. You've got almost like ballads and pop songs right alongside these punk rockers, you know. So a real nice mix of stuff here, but just great stuff all the way through on both of those records. Next up, an album that I own sealed. And I thought I had opened it up and listened to it a year or so ago, back when I got it. However, I think I just listened to it on YouTube, and that would be yet another Tom Johnson, his second solo album. This one from 1981 still feels good, and this CD, if you can find it, it's going to run you $65. That's where the starting price is for this. So I was able to find this sealed album online for I think $10. This one gets better reviews, all right, from general public and I think some reviewers too. It's more just mainstream, it's more accessible. And, you know, I guess versus those more contemporary danceable numbers in 79, he was heading back to the middle of the road with this one, okay? And people seem to favor it. This one's just okay to me. 3 really good songs and a lot of just safe, okay songs. So when I say, yeah, it was more middle of the road, there's less chances being taken here, and it's noticeable to me. And I think it's just a little boring because of that. But maybe it was a safer album, and that brought back some fans, but it doesn't do as much for me as that other record does. Mostly it's just a 4-piece band. There's very few sort of accent instruments in here. Few song structures besides your standard verse, chorus, solo, fade, you know. Short on tasty bridges, short on hooks, and so yeah, it's more straightforward, like I said. But to me, it's too straightforward. I do, however, really like the song Madman to start things out. Last Desperado is cool, the last one on side 1, and I think it's Up on a Stage, first song on side 2. That's pretty good too. Early Doobie vibes on that one, but it's sort of just missing the big Doobie's harmonies. You're just waiting for it to happen, and it just never does. So I'll go 7 with this record, but it's kind of a, you know what, it's okay. 7's the perfect number for this thing. But it's not something I'm going to reach for nearly as often as his first solo record. So that was Still Feels Good from 1981. All right, on to album number 11, 3 more to go. And it was released in November of 81 in Australia, not until April of 82 here in the US. Men at Work's Business as Usual. I lucked out a few years ago on eBay. I just searched sealed LP and filtered lowest price. And wouldn't you know it, for I think it was $5 or $6, some dude was selling 5 albums that cheap. And it was a bidding thing. So I only bid like the minimum and got 4 out of 5 of them. One of them being this guy. Like, what the hell, you know, for $6. So I bundled the shipping with those 4 and all that. So I got all 4 sealed albums. Shipping and everything was 20 or $25. Golden Earring was another one. Hall & Oates. Anyway, this thing spent 15 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Top 200 from late in 82 and 1983. Sold 6 million copies in the US alone. 2 big hits. All right, they're really good. Who Can It Be Now and Down Under. All right, Be Good Johnny, another single, I believe, and I'm not a fan of that song. That chorus is just annoying to me. I'm sorry, but there is a really good one on side 2, Touching the Untouchables. That's a great song. Kind of progressive new wave is how I describe that tune. So overall, I don't love this record. I probably would just give it like a 5 or a 6, but it does have its moments, you know. And anyway, kind of cool. Hype sticker on there, Grammy winner sticker on there, kind of cool. Business as Usual from Men at Work, probably the weak spot in this batch. Now on to, speaking of new wave and some more new wave, and also from 1982. And this is one that I had back in 82, and it's Missing Persons Spring Session M, something I picked up as a Japan import a year or 2 ago. And man, I liked it in 82, most of it anyway. There's some great tunes on this thing. There's a couple of good ones, and I thought there was just a few okay. But I just played this thing a few weeks ago. Man, I don't know what's going on. I kind of like love this whole album. I'm really just kind of shocked. I've always had some favorite ones, the standard favorites, okay? Walking in LA, Windows is cool, catchy song. Destination Unknown, super catchy. But now I'm really into this song, Tears, very Police-like pop rocker. Here and Now, another rocker. The opening song, Noticeable One, is one of my favorite tunes right now in the last year. I love that song. The album ends with a nice mix of quirky, funky, synth pop rock, Bad Streets, No Way Out, Rock and Roll Suspension. Just a really great album all the way through, and for different reasons all the way through. Like I said, there's mix, all sort of in the synth pop new wave realm, but some songs have more guitar than others and such. Some things are poppier than others, but man, it just plays all the way through really, really well. And like I said, more than I liked it back in the day, and I really liked it back then. Great one. I'll have to give this album a solid 9. All right, Missing Persons, Spring Session M. As someone who liked it in the 80s, it's really just, I've grown to love it somehow. Which isn't usually the case, but it is with that one. And here you go, is another example of sort of the same kind of thing. Another pickup from earlier this year. Now I have the CD, I got the CD a few years ago. But I had the cassette. I think I got the cassette for Christmas of 83. Quiet Riot's Metal Health. This was a $2 album. I had to snag it. CD or no CD. Grabbing this one. Now, I have to admit, I would have probably given this something like a 7 back in the day. You know, I liked it. Title track's awesome. Come On Feel the Noise is catchy enough. And I was really happy for heavy metal in general that song was number 1. Not so much for Quiet Riot. I didn't know them before that album. And when I had that cassette, I'd play it over and over thinking, I'm going to love this eventually. And it just never happened. There's just too many just okay songs. When I got the CD 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, I kind of thought the same thing. I'm like, yeah, this album's good, but it's never going to be great, especially at this point. I don't know. The other day I played this record, and I really just kind of love it. And back in the day, everything else was just not as good as the title track. But this most recent play, man, Breathless, Don't Want to Let You Go, Run for Cover, which might sound like Rats in the Cellar from Aerosmith, but it still works, still really good. Let's Get Crazy, despite that Smoke on the Water riff, all right, another sort of partial plagiarism, but it's a really good song, man. I like the song a lot. Thunderbird, very sort of Rod Stewart inspired 70s slow rocker. Huge chorus finale. I kind of like that song. It's a great ender. So despite some copied riffs, I would say, I think it's a really, really solid metal album, and I'd have to go at least 8.5 on this thing after years of dredging in the 7 zone for me, or decades there. I'm finally in with Metal Health. Yeah, I don't know why. This last listen just did something for me. And believe me, it wasn't for lack of trying back in the day. I played that thing a lot. All right, let's end it up with not a bootleg, but, well, maybe in a way, but officially released, officially sanctioned bootleg. Now, I've had this box set, I don't know how many years now. I mean, I got the Kill 'Em All box set for like $95. And the Ride the Lightning box set, $115. So it kind of pained me to pay $135 for a used Master of Puppets Super Deluxe Edition. Yeah, I'm talking about 6 or 8 years ago, not recently. It's gone through the roof. It's insane. All right? But there's so much stuff in here I still haven't even heard yet. I think I've actually listened to most of the CDs. I just started watching the DVD recently. And for the first time, played this guy. This is the one I want to talk about. Live at the Aragon Ballroom. May 25th, 1986. Cliff still here with us at this point. And man, minimal, if any, production on this thing. Very raw bootleg-like sound, which is right up my alley, as you guys probably know. It's soundboard, of course. What's not to love? Cliff era Metallica. That box set starts at like $1,000 these days. It's crazy. But the whole concert's just great. I mean, I could just show you the set list. It's as great as you would imagine. Just wanted to point out I finally got around to listen to this, and it's a great bootleg-like album. No overdubs, it sounds like to me, just raw Metallica live. So the sound's not, perfect. It'll sound like your typical bootleg with some little fluctuations, but just raw energy, kick-ass Metallica live. So, I don't know. What else can you give it? It's got to be a 10, Master of Puppets tour, Metallica. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Just thought I'd let you in on 14 things I've been listening to lately, and a lot of them really highly rated stuff and a lot of recommended stuff. Catch you later. I got a batch of 9 things to show you from 2 different record store runs coming up. Man, wait till you see this batch of interesting stuff. Import, sealed, bootleg. It's all over the place. Collectible, mint condition. If all those words sound like something you want to hear when you're talking about vinyl, check out the next episode. Guys, I'll catch you later. Let me get back to my hangover recovery.